I never believed in ghosts until that rain-soaked night on Route 27. My name is Rakesh Kumar, and I drive the late-evening city bus that runs from the busy market to the lonely industrial outskirts. The company calls it Route 27B, but the night crew just calls it the Graveyard Run, because most people who ride that bus are night shift workers, tired students, or drifters looking for shelter after dark. I had driven that same stretch for 12 years without a single accident, and I was proud of my spotless record. I knew the schedule by heart. I knew every bump in the road, every flickering streetlight, and even the smell of the half-finished flyover where rainwater gathered in oily puddles. I talked to my bus as if it were a friend. "Easy, old girl," I'd whisper while guiding her around potholes. Maybe driving alone every night makes you do little things like that. It was a Tuesday in late September when the story I'm about to tell happened. The monsoon was almost over, but warm clouds still pressed low over the city, and a fine drizzle kept the windshield blurry. I started the shift at 8 p.m. like always. The depot manager, Mr. Sharma, signed my sheet and reminded me, "Last trip leaves the terminal at 11:45, Rakesh. Don't be late." I nodded, grabbed my steel lunchbox, climbed into the driver's seat, and pressed the starter. The engine coughed, rattled, and settled into its usual grumble. For the first 3 runs nothing unusual happened. The seats weren't full, but the usual faces were there. The old security guard with a limp, the girl who worked at a call center and listened to pop songs through bright green headphones, the 2 brothers who sold tea near the hospital. They all got down at their regular stops, and I even had time to joke with the ticket conductor, Pradeep, about cricket scores. At 11:40 p.m. we pulled back into the terminal for the last loop of the night. The depot lamps flickered a dull yellow. Most drivers were already done, washing their buses or smoking cheap cigarettes. Pradeep hurried to the canteen for tea, so I was alone when I saw her. She stood near the far corner of the platform, where the roof leaked and the floor was wet. Her white sari clung to her thin frame, soaked from head to toe. Long black hair covered half her face like a curtain. Even from the distance I felt a chill crawl up my arms. Something about her posture, too still, too heavy, looked wrong. I leaned out the window and shouted, "Madam, Route 27B." I tried to sound cheerful. She slowly lifted her head. I saw dark eyes like deep wells. No expression, just eyes staring straight at me. Then she stepped forward, shoes clicking softly on the wet concrete. Pradeep came back, slurping his tea. I told him, "1 passenger so far, that woman." He glanced in her direction and frowned. "Weird time to be traveling in wet clothes," he muttered. But he tore a ticket anyway and waited by the door. The woman boarded without speaking. She didn't even search for coins. Pradeep tried to hand her the ticket, her hand brushed his for a split second. He flinched. Later he told me her skin felt icy, like touching the inside of a freezer. She moved down the aisle and sat in the very last row, right corner, where the lights overhead were dim. We waited a couple more minutes, but no one else showed up. At 11:45 on the dot I started the engine and rolled out of the terminal. The streets were nearly empty. Rain drummed softly on the roof. The wipers squeaked back and forth, pushing thin lines of water across the glass like tiny rivers. "Did she pay?" I asked Pradeep quietly. He shook his head. "Didn't ask for the fare, yar. Something off about her." He tried to laugh, but the sound was forced. I checked the rear view mirror. She was there, staring. Straight ahead. Not at me. Not at anything. Just forward. I told myself it was only nerves. People take late buses for all sorts of sad reasons. Maybe she ran away from home or had no money. I focused on the road. We passed the hospital, the college gates, the silent vegetable market. At each stop I opened the doors, but no one got on. Pradeep rang the bell twice in boredom. At 12:05 we reached the bridge over the dry riverbed, the loneliest part of the route. No houses, no shops, only the sound of water trickling below and the drone of the engine. That's when I noticed her reflection in the mirror again. She wasn't sitting anymore. She was standing in the aisle, halfway toward me. Pradeep hadn't seen her move. He was busy humming a filmy tune. I swallowed and called out, "Madam, your stop is coming." No answer. She stepped again. The bus seemed colder suddenly. I felt my breath fogging the glass, something that never happens in humid monsoon weather. "Pradeep," I whispered. He turned, saw her, and froze. The ticket machine slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a dull thud. The headlights caught a sheet of rain. A sharp bend was coming. I couldn't keep driving and watch her at the same time. My hands shook on the steering wheel. "Madam, please sit," I tried once more. She lifted her face fully, hair falling back. Her skin was pale as wet paper. Lips dark blue. Eyes empty, like windows into night. She opened her mouth, but no voice came. Only a soft wheeze, like wind escaping a cave. She lifted her arm and pointed out the windshield. I turned my eyes back to the road just in time to see a figure standing in the middle of the lane, a young man, waving both arms desperately. I slammed the brakes. The bus skidded on the slick asphalt, tires screaming. The whole chassis shook. We stopped inches before hitting the man. He stumbled to his knees, breathing hard, eyes wide in panic. "Are you crazy?" I yelled, half in anger, half in relief. Pradeep opened the doors. The man climbed in, soaked and trembling. "Thank you, brother," he gasped. My bike slipped. "I need to reach the next town." I nodded, trying to calm my own heart. "Sit quickly." We almost lost control. He took a seat near the front. When I checked the mirror again, the woman was gone. Not seated. Not standing. Not anywhere. I turned on the cabin lights and asked both passengers to look around. We searched every row, under seats, even the storage rack. Nothing. Doors were closed. There was no way she could have left without us noticing. Pradeep's teeth chattered, and it wasn't from the rain. She's not human," he whispered. The young man looked at us like we were mad. I forced myself to drive. 10 minutes later we reached the man's stop, a tiny bus shelter beside a petrol pump. He thanked us and stepped out. "Careful," I warned. He nodded and jogged to the shelter. As soon as the doors shut, a loud bang came from the roof. Then another. The whole bus shook as if someone huge jumped on top. I hit the brakes once more. We both stared at the ceiling. The pounding moved toward the back, then to the side panels, like fists hammering metal. I started the engine, desperate to reach lights and people. The bus crawled forward. "Look," Pradeep shouted, pointing to the left side window. A pale hand slapped against the glass from outside, fingers spread, leaving wet streaks. Then a face pressed against it, her face, eyes wider, mouth open in a silent scream. But we were moving at 40 kilometers per hour. How could she be keeping up? I accelerated, speedometer climbing to 60, then 70. Streetlights blurred past. Yet the face stayed beside us, floating, skin rippling like water. Suddenly the bus lurched. The engine coughed and died. All lights went out. We coasted to a stop on a dark country road. Rain eased to a drizzle. The only sound was our panicked breathing. My hands fumbled for the ignition. "Dead. Battery 2. Pradeep whispered prayers under his breath. The cabin felt colder than ice. Then the back door hissed open by itself. Footsteps. Slow. Wet. Coming forward. I could hear them. Thud. Squish. Thud. I tried the flashlight mounted near the dash. It flickered to life. I shone it down the aisle. She stood 5 rows away, her white sari dripping crimson now, as though the rain had turned to blood on the cloth. In her hands she held something. A broken bus steering wheel, rusty, bent, and covered in dark stains. Pradeep screamed. I couldn't move. She raised the wheel above her head and spoke for the first time. Her voice wasn't loud, but it filled every corner of the bus. "Driver, you didn't stop." Wind slammed every window at once, rattling them. Her eyes burned brighter. What do you want?" My voice cracked. She dropped the wheel. It clanged against the floor, rolled, and stopped at my feet. The bus shuddered. I picked it up without thinking. My skin burned where the rust met my palm. Visions flooded my mind, images I never lived. I saw a younger driver, maybe 25, on this same route, racing through heavy rain. I saw a woman in a white sari chasing the bus, waving, begging it to stop. I felt the driver's impatience, his anger, the hiss of brakes not working, the sudden swerve, the scream. I saw the bus tip over the bridge and crash into the dry riverbed below, smashing the woman beneath its wheels. I heard her bones crunch. I felt her pain, her rage, her promise. I will ride again, one night, and make the driver pay. The vision ended. I was back in my seat, sweating, heart hammering. She moved closer. "Drive," she whispered. "Take me home." The headlights blinked on by themselves. The engine roared. My hands, still holding the broken wheel, dropped it and took the real steering wheel. I didn't question. I shifted into gear. The road ahead looked different, older, lined with trees I didn't recognize. The drizzle stopped, fog rose instead, thick and silver. I drove as if guided by her will. We reached a dirt lane that wasn't on my route map. At its end stood an abandoned bus stop. A stone bench, a rusted sign, weeds all around. A single street lamp flickered above it. She walked to the front door. It opened. She stepped onto the lane, turned, and looked at me. Her eyes softened for the first time. She raised one hand, blessing her farewell, I couldn't tell. Then she dissolved into mist, drifting upward until nothing remained. The lamp went out. Darkness swallowed the scene. I don't remember the drive back. A patrol car found our bus later, parked neatly at the depot gate, engine off, lights out. Pradeep and I were inside, unconscious but unharmed. The broken wheel lay on the dashboard. The company mechanic examined the bus. The engine battery was new, fully charged. The fuel tank was full. No reason for the earlier failure. The back door worked perfectly, it could never open without the air switch being pressed. We filed an incident report. Mr. Sharma listened but looked doubtful. There was no record of an accident on that bridge, he said. No missing woman in white. He advised us to take some days off and see a doctor. We tried. But every night since, at precisely 11:45 p.m., I dream of driving Route 27B. In the mirror I see her sitting quietly in the last row. When I wake, my hands smell of wet rust. I quit the job, but sometimes, while walking past the depot, I hear an engine start and a horn honk once, softly. The sound is inviting, almost gentle. I never look back, because I know whose bus is calling. If you ever ride a late-night bus and see a woman in a soaked white sari sitting alone at the back, remember this story. Pay the fare, sit quietly, and pray the driver stops where she asks. Because some passengers have waited too long for their final ride, and they do not forgive mistakes. That's all. Believe me or don't, but if you drive at night, check your mirror twice. The road keeps its memories, and sometimes it sends them back in white. May you never have to give them a lift. The next morning, after we signed the report, I couldn't rest. I kept replaying the crash vision in my mind. Pradeep said he was packing and going back to his village. City ghosts are worse than village ones, he joked weakly and boarded a train. I was alone. I went to the public records office, the dusty building near the court. The clerk barely looked up when I asked about accidents on Route 27. At first he said nothing recent, but I insisted. He pointed me toward a room of brittle files that smelled of mold. After hours of searching, I found a thin yellow folder dated the 14th of August 1978. The headline read, "Bus plunges off bridge, 3 dead." It said the late evening driver lost control in heavy rain and crushed a woman named Shalini Mishra, age 27, wearing a white ceremonial sari. The driver escaped with minor injuries but vanished during bail. One piece of evidence was never reclaimed, a twisted steering wheel. I photocopied the article and stepped outside. Midday sun felt weak, as if clouds filtered all warmth. That night I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I opened my window. The street was empty, lit by a single tube light. For a second I thought I saw a long white sari at the corner. I blinked, nothing remained. A week passed. I tried normal life, washing clothes, watching news, but every fluttering white cloth made my heart stumble. Finally my wife said, "You look haunted." I told her everything, wet woman, pounding roof, broken wheel. When I finished, she surprised me. "Go back," she whispered. "Maybe the road still needs an apology." So on Sunday I borrowed a scooter and rode to the bridge at noon. Sunlight shimmered over the shallow riverbed. Cracked concrete showed old scars. I climbed down the embankment. Near the bottom I found a small shrine under a neem tree, smeared with faded vermilion. Wilted marigolds lay there. On the stone I traced the letters, SM. I placed my hand on the slab and said, "I'm sorry." A cool breeze drifted up, though the day was hot. Beside the shrine, half buried in mud, something metal glinted. I dug until I lifted a rusted route plaque, R27B, night service. I understood the road once ended here with wreckage and lost lives. I left fresh flowers and rode home. That evening I typed a letter to the transit authority, attaching the old news clipping and pleading for safer guardrails. I mailed copies to the local paper and the transport minister. 2 months later the city announced repairs. Workers installed reflectors, stronger barriers, and proper lights. When the work finished, I visited again. The new rails gleamed silver. That night I finally slept without nightmares. I dreamed of a bus gliding across moonlit water. In the mirror I saw her one last time, eyes gentle now. She nodded, as if ready to disembark. Then the dream faded. I still avoid full-time night shifts, but sometimes I cover a late run. When the clock nears 11:45 p.m., I grip the wheel and glance at the back row. Most nights it's empty. Yet on heavy rain evenings a faint chill brushes my neck, and I smell wet earth and jasmine, the scent of old marigolds laid at a forgotten shrine. I whisper, "Your stop is coming, madam. I won't miss it." The chill lifts, and the night rolls on. People laugh at drivers who tell ghost tales. But we travel through the city's dark corridors. Roads remember who died on them and sometimes send those memories back in white. So slow down before every bend. Honor every shadow in the rain. Someone might still be waiting, clutching a broken wheel, longing for one last ride home. A few weeks after the bridge repairs, the company begged me to train a batch of new night drivers. I agreed for a higher wage. On the first evening I took 5 rookies onto the route in a training bus. The sky threatened rain. As we approached the refurbished bridge, one trainee laughed, "Sir, is this where people say a ghost runs around?" He imitated a spooky howl, and the others chuckled. I stopped the bus in the middle of the span and asked them to step outside. Together we leaned on the new guardrail and looked down at the trickle of water and the neem tree below. "A woman died here," I said softly. The laughter died. "I don't care if you believe in ghosts. Believe in speed limits, believe in wet roads, believe in human life." The youngest trainee swallowed hard and nodded. While they stared into the dusk, a white flower drifted on the breeze and landed on the rail between us. None of the trainees noticed, but I did. I picked it up, placed it in my pocket, and whispered a thank you into the wind. Back on the bus, nobody spoke until we reached the depot. One trainee finally said, "Sir, I will remember this lesson." I smiled. Sometimes horror teaches safety better than any rulebook. That pocketed white flower sits on my dashboard now, dried and brittle. When I drive at night, it reminds me that the unseen passenger is still always watching, making sure we treat the road, and her memory, with respect.